Welcome to this week's episode of Art Wisdom with Chris and Kat. And this week we're talking about managing your emotions and uncertainty as an artist. It's a big one, Kat, isn't it? Because, go up and down and, sometimes things just aren't working for us, and it's how to stay up the lows and keep ourselves going.
Yeah, I found that I've personally found a lot of uncertainty, and I suppose it probably comes into a lot of like imposter syndrome and that kind of stuff as well. But like actually with the art creation process, like, are they going to like what I'm making? What happens if everyone finds out I'm a fraud and I'm not a really good artist? Do you know what I mean? All of that stuff for me comes up, but I know that there's also like a financial side of things as well for a lot of people. Like, when is the next sale going to come? How do you keep positive despite all of that?
It's a tricky one. If your finances are, you've given everything up and decided to be an artist, but like really, any business that you start should really, I think, it's my opinion, should be a side hustle before you actually are up and running and get it going, because it takes that pressure off, not just as an artist, but any business. You put the hours in after your day job and
I agree,
build clientele.
I think that's a very fair point, because when I started painting, I was working as a cleaner right, part-time, so that I could, bear in mind though, actually it was also my business. So I started two businesses at the same time, but I was working as a cleaner pretty much full time for the 8 months while I got my first campaign up, because to get my first successful campaign up, it actually only took 8 months. And bear in mind, it wasn't just like get a campaign together. I was teaching myself how to paint because I can't bloody paint.
Anyone in anyone's books, even if you're a really fantastic painter, is a great effort to build the excitement, the clientele, and find people to love.
Right. Yeah. So what that 8 months looked like for me was like basically like 3 or 4 hours every Saturday. And what I would do is, obviously I would do all the work during the week and I'd be bloody knackered and exhausted every day. And then the weekends I'd get like a day or like half a day or whatever. And then I would paint. And then I would just be updating my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter and all of that stuff as I was going. And sharing what I was doing consistently over 8 months allowed me to build up like a level of momentum, so that when someone else actually suggested, hey, you should run this campaign, I was like, yeah, why not? Right. I think that must have happened. I think I was painting on the weekends for like probably like the first 4 months, and then someone suggested, hey, you should run a campaign, and then the following 4 months was like basically getting that set up. But I do think, it is. I think that what I realized after describing this to a lot of other people is like, what is your current position, right? Because some people are in a financial position where they can just full-time 8 months, and that's no problem. They're in like, they either have a financial backing from like previous work, or maybe they are in a family unit where they're supported or something like that. But obviously not everybody has the same, risk profile. Some people have like mortgages and children and all of that other stuff, which, you can't just necessarily be like, oh, well, I'll deal with that later. Because I think that the pressure and stress of, supporting other human beings as well as yourself, that impacts the way that you can even make art, I think, sometimes. So, if you've got all of that on your shoulders, then definitely, consider, I think the side hustle is such a strong move in managing the uncertainty as well, because it's not your all or nothing. I do feel like publicly it's like it's always kind of promoted like all or nothing, like this is the only way. But I don't know if that's actually really the most sound advice, because I think also it's like a snowball effect, right? Running a business, it's slow at the beginning and it's a bit ploddy and all of that stuff. Now the only thing is, it's like if you are so exhausted, so not just physically, but mentally from a day job that you can't bring yourself to do art, then that's a place where you have to start to learn to carve out time, whether it's asking to have a day off or, and I know that's not always possible, but finding some way, whatever that might look like.
I think scheduling as well, because if you go, well, okay, I have this time and it's non-negotiable, your family will work around you. But I think especially women, wives, mums, we just don't give ourselves that luxury of going, these 2 hours, you don't even talk to me. This is what I'm doing. We won't do that. So that's, so if you schedule it, it's like schedule it, it'll get done. You don't schedule it, other things will creep in to it.
Yeah, I think that is a very fair point. And I think that's one good way to get started. But I think that obviously once you're started, and once you're in the cycle, then like a lot of other things come up. And for me, most of mine was around kind of like performance anxiety, like, am I good enough as an artist? I'd be constantly looking at other people's artwork, which I know is terrible. You shouldn't really compare yourself, but
it's
thinking
still hard
like,
to do now, isn't it? It's still hard to do now that I'll like, don't go on Instagram. Somebody said to me, don't go on Instagram for inspiration, go to art galleries, go to other places, but don't go on Instagram, don't go on Facebook. I don't find it motivating when I see like thousands of artists who are amazing, and then you sort of go, well, how am I supposed to get my work out there when there's all these amazing people? So if you feel like that, feel it, acknowledge that you're feeling it, steer away from it because it's not serving you.
I always say, like, when instead of, but if you are, because like the thing is, it's a challenge to say steer away from social media, but when you're starting out, you have to be there and you've got to be posting, you got to be present, you got to be commenting. It's very hard to do both things. But I think just changing changing your opinion around it. So, instead of looking at someone and saying, that's never going to be me, just being like, that's going to be me at some point. And like changing that narrative, I think was helpful for me, because I recognized that I couldn't not be on social media, because in order to set up and build a successful presence, like you sort of have to be on there.
Yeah, I get that, but it's not for, just don't go
not for comparison.
No, not for comparison and that. And then when you get to a certain stage with the art, that thing, oh, I could never be me. That's like, you'll get to that stage where that's completely fine, because what you've got is unique to you. So it's like, completely unique with what you do. I'm completely unique what I do. And I do see other people's work and think, oh my God, it's amazing. My work's amazing too for what I do.
Yeah.
It's like appreciating it.
I think it takes time to get to that point though, in a way, because there will be probably times when you're earlier in your career where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Definitely.
It was well, like, do you know what I mean? I think, like, especially like I look at my early paintings. Also, I think changing my narratives around what is a good painting and like how I even appreciate my own artwork. So like at the beginning, when you're trying to learn a medium, like I remember just struggling a lot and just looking at them and just being like, I couldn't see necessarily I couldn't see the vibe that I was wanting to create, because I can see the struggle. But instead of like looking at those artworks like they are mistakes and I could do better and they're rubbish, I was just started to look at them as, this is a lesson. And I actually started a notepad, and every single artwork I would write down something that I learned, right? And if I found one thing that I learned, the painting was a success. And it's funny because like I look at them now and I'm like, that artwork technically is crap, but I learned how to gesso a canvas. That artwork, I learned how to varnish a canvas. That one, I actually learned how to clean my brushes properly because I didn't know that for the first few times. You know, the next one, I learned that there was, I remember there was one painting. I was trying to do a solar eclipse, like an annular eclipse where you could see the sun all the way around the moon. And I couldn't get it to work. And then that was the point I realized that it was like transparent and opaque yellows. I was like on a black canvas trying to paint a transparent yellow, be like, where's the color go? Why is this not working? I realized that lemon yellow was bloody transparent. So even though I can see that painting, it's full of, like, you can just even tell the brush strokes. I was having a hard time. But I now look at that as like, wow, that was like a formative moment in my career where I learned something super important that I use all the time now, all the time. And even now, like, it's almost like I've actually forgotten to keep on picking out learnings, but there are still learnings to be had. And I feel like that helps propel you forward as far as like the actual aesthetics, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we've got very different journeys, Kat, because you sound like you've just learned all by yourself.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Well, that's a lie, actually. I've watched some YouTube tutorials. I watched Bob Ross. That's how I learned. So not entirely in isolation, but I've never had like art tuition and all of that stuff.
That's amazing to like. So you've been through all of that sort of. I've learned with tutors all of the time. Really, like I painted. You go off and you do your own thing, but I've had probably learnings and a painting mentor for the last 10 years to help me on my journey. So if there's anything that I'm saying stuck with, but painting is just, you just have to keep going and keep trying it, and and that. So it's really interesting, the different journeys actually.
Right. But even with training, right? I don't know if this is true for you, but every painting has an ugly phase.
Oh God,
or can do.
Oh,
and like not being like, I'm a failure when you were in the middle of it. Do you know what I mean? I remember it took me like almost a year and a half to realize that's just a given. Like, don't feel bad about it. That's like every flipping painting you're ever going to do ever will have a phase where you're like, oh. But
I think that's a big learning thing as well, like, because you're trying to rush, and it's maybe a bit, I always think it's a big ego thing, because you want to do your painting and you want it to look beautiful the whole time, because you want to, especially when you're in a group of people and you're in a group of artists as well, you don't want your painting to be like, mine looks really crap. And it's that comparison thing again, when you're around other people, you want it every stage, you go, oh, it really needs to be nice, because I don't want to look like I'm not a good painter. But being a painter actually is very messy. It's very messy. It has to go through the stages where it's just not looking good. And I suppose I've learned I can spend, and I'm quite happy to spend weeks and weeks on a painting, because I know that I'm, like you said, I'm learning. Every single time I do a painting, I'm learning something. So it's like, I suppose it's to have that, like, this is all mental, isn't it? It's all mindset.
It is all a mental get. Like,
I'm learning every single time I'm going through a stage of a painting, because I feel like everyone's different. Every time I do a painting, it's different. I'm learning again of, how to do this one. I do it, and maybe that's why it keeps my interest.
I think even sometimes when you do really good painting, you go, oh, next time you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to top that. Fuck.
You start again, you think, God, I thought I'd nail these rocks and that, and you think, these rubbish. And I've scraped, because I do palette knives, scrape many are off, and then think, right, I'll just start this one again. I've tried to be too precious, or I've tried to do too much. It's just like, relax and do it. So if you feel that with your painting, that's natural as well.
Because I think you're right. You're talking about just wait until it gets natural and stuff. But I think that it basically, it's like hitting flow state with your painting, right? But as you're learning, there's a lot of points where you're not in flow because you're still learning. Like flow really comes when you just do it so automatically that it just falls out of you. But that is not a lot of the journey. I would say 90% of the beginning is not that. And to feel like, and I feel like a lot of people think, oh, that's just how it is, I should just, you know, like, so my thing also was learning with ADHD, right? My struggle with even coming to sit down and focus on an artwork, and I'd have people say, oh yeah, I could sit and I could draw and I could paint for hours and hours and hours, and there was me like, oh god, I struggle to do 20 minutes. Am I a real artist? Maybe I'm not meant for this, you know. So
there's a lot of judgment on ourselves all the time with, you know, with it.
And you know where judgment also crops up is prices, and what you charge. And I don't even know where I heard this first, or I don't even know if I came up with this first or whatever, but like, you know, the price that you sell your artwork is really an indication of your self-worth to many degrees, right? Because and also, right, to separate the two, like I talk about this often, the difference between art and craft. You know, the craft, which we've been talking about, is often the skill or the ability to create the piece that you're wanting to create. It's the detail, it's the confidence, it's all of that stuff. That's like the craftsmanship side of things. But the art itself is actually almost a separated thing. It's kind of like the meaning, the experience, the emotions, the purpose behind the art, because the art is really just a representation of your greater, deeper meaning for it. When I talk about, I don't just be like, oh, this is a blue nebula space. I'll talk about like how vast the universe is, how incredible it is, like how we forget that it's out there in every direction, you know, and help people get that little existential moment, because it is good to like give sense of perspective, right? So, but the truth is that art is a luxury market, and people aren't necessarily buying wall decorations. I say this often, but I've said it in the past episode, but you know, if they wanted to buy a wall decoration off you, they would go to Target, they would go to Kmart, they would go to whatever cheap, you know, they'd go to Amazon or whatever, and they would just buy a generic picture of live, laugh, love, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And they would hang it on their wall because it's just about filling a blank wall. Like original artwork, at least to me, and I know that there are many different opinions, but it's not about wall decoration. What you're doing is conveying a message that people can connect with, right? And hopefully you do it in a skillful, beautiful way, but maybe not, because maybe that's your style. You know, but I think that can, once you realize that, I think that actually really helps when you start to form the prices of your artwork, because the prices are based on the value, right? But how do you put a value on meaning and purpose, you know?
But this is what we're talking about, isn't it? I suppose, because as you're saying, the value that you put on your art is the value that you are feeling towards it. So it's like, how do you keep going when you're not feeling of value, you know? And that this is the mindset thing again. It's like you have maybe look into what's going on for you, what's happening in your mind, what are you saying to yourself, what are you focusing on? Because, you know, we all have the little thing in our head that is talking to us, so we've got to make sure that what we're saying to ourselves is helpful. And even, you know, sometimes, you know, it's great, catch yourself if you're saying something which is not helpful. Fantastic, you've caught yourself. So the first thing we need to do is be aware. Be aware.
You know what, I just want to stop that and just say, you said something really important, is that you didn't say what was in your mind was good or bad. You said it was helpful or unhelpful, and I feel like that's a very helpful way to look at it, right? Sorry, Karen, Chris.
Thanks for that, Kat. Which way it's steering you. And you know, if you are going through a time where it's really difficult, you're creating fantastic artworks, you're putting it out there, you're feeling like you're doing everything you can, you may or may not be, you know, your business skills may not be terrific, but that's something, listen to all our podcasts, see if you can improve them. Look at where the holes are. If your art's fantastic, because you may be a beginner and it's not, and you may find that you actually need to improve your art skills, or it may be you're not getting the followings that you feel that you need. Break it down. Are you putting the hours into it? Are you is your business strategy good? Do you have a business strategy? So there's lots of things that you can look at. If things aren't working for you, don't just throw in the towel and go, this just is not working for me and I don't know what to do. Break it.
And also, is it actually working for you and you're just being overly hard on yourself?
Yeah, parts might be working for you, and keep those parts going, but other parts, you may need to just move on. And if, things I've found in the past, if it's really hard and you're doing something which you don't like and it's really hard, it's really not going to be a great thing for you to carry on doing. It's maybe you maybe need to drop that bit, replace it by something else, because we need to keep putting ourselves out there.
When you say that, are you thinking about something specific though? Because I think sometimes there are hard stuff that you don't want to do, but you've got to do it in order to succeed. But maybe if it's just doing a little bit of it every morning, just getting it out of the way first thing and getting it over and done with, whatever that is.
Yeah. I suppose you love the social media stuff. Social media for me is more of a challenge, so it's finding ways to do it that you go, oh, I don't mind doing it like that. I love doing the interviews. I'll do more interviews. That can get me out there with what I do. So it's what do you like to do? Find a way, because you've got to do the promoting. And it seems to be from the artists that I've talked about, they don't like to do the promoting side of it. That's the side, and unfortunately
it's a huge part.
Yeah.
You don't want to necessarily go to the grave being the world's best unknown artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have a mission and a meaning and a purpose behind what you're doing, and it is something that will get you up every morning because you really believe in what it is that you're creating artwork about a mission that you really believe in, whatever that is, whether it's to bring joy to people and to brighten people's lives, because there have been times in yours where you've not had that, or whether it's like mine, connecting people to the greater cosmos as a way to help people create, perspective in their lives, right? Whatever that is, something that's so, but that having all of that purpose, mission and values and good work is worthless if no one gets to find out about it. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. I mean, I understand that there is art for just doing it for you, and that's fantastic. Obviously, in this podcast, we're talking about running a business and being successful as an artist. Right, which is fine. And if you don't want to have a business, that's okay. You don't have to have a business. But I would say that it's about a level of impact you can have, right? And sometimes it's worth facing those demons to have that impact on other people. If helping other people is high on your list.
Not even that, Kat. It's a journey. It's a journey to maybe who you need to be, or who you're going to be, because it's not easy. And then I suppose both of us love growth, don't we? We love growth and learning. Highest value is growth and learning. So growth and learning is not, this is my opinion, is not an easy journey, because if it's an easy journey, you're not growing, you're just sitting in your comfort zone there. So to be who you want to be, what do you need to change about yourself? What do you need to grow about yourself? Because something will need to step up to take you to where you need to go. Otherwise, you're there. You don't need to do anything.
Wow, that is actually a really important thing. Being brave wasn't ever meant to be easy, because if it was, it wouldn't be being brave.
That's right.
And
that's right.
And I would say actually, like, running a business in general is one of those things that will push your limits in a way that most things will never do. And then also, I think specifically art as well, because like you're creating pieces, like someone said, like, I don't know, someone said, you know, even if you're not painting a physical picture of your own face,
Yeah,
it's still a self-portrait. Everything you do, it's a
yeah,
portrait of your interests, your curiosity, the mission or the beliefs that you have. It's all a self-portrait of what's going on inside most
yeah.
often,
There's,
or
there's a
even
part
things
of
that
you
you're
in it.
curious about.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
part
it's
of
like
you in
part
it.
of you.
Like so when you paint, you know, like days, it's really dynamic and confident, and then sometimes you're fiddly and messy and, you know, and all that, and it's because you're feeling insecure, you're feeling not confident that time, and that's sometimes I've scraped all my rocks back because I've been fiddly and messy, and you know, and it's in the painting.
You can tell.
Yeah.
It comes out in the artwork, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does come out.
Yeah. So this is a journey of finding out more of you, being more of you, helping you step up. So that helps me actually, you know, with all these things that I think, oh, I don't want to do that, or that's a bit of a stretch for me, you know, and I think, well, growth is a really high value of mine. It's like the highest value. So it's like an old Tony Robbins saying is that if you can't, you must. And I've had that for probably the last 30 years, you know.
If you can't, you must.
Oh,
Do you want to explain that a bit more?
It's just like, if you don't want to do something, you know, even sometimes it's talking to somebody, if you think, oh, I need to go and network, I need to go and talk to them. And I'm not naturally an extrovert. I'm not, you know, if you get to know me, you probably go, yeah, you are. But naturally, no, I'll just leave everybody else and they can go and talk and network. So that I can't, you must. Oh, you can't, you must.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, the words that you say, instead of saying I can't, you say I must.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
I think I've got that the wrong way around. I've been saying it for years as well. Maybe I haven't said it for a while. No, not the wrong way around, but yeah. But anyway, it's the same sort of thing. It's like if you feel like I don't want to do this right now, it's like, okay, I have to then. I have to, because I feel something saying I don't want to do it. So I'm holding myself back here for some reasons. There's some fear. So it's like, yeah, can't, you must. And I do it every time.
Ian's favorite saying is by Will Smith. We'll have a saying off you. You bring Tony Robbins, I'll bring Will Smith. He says, if you're scared, do it scared. Yeah. I quite like that one as well.
Yeah. Because you have to step, you have to do it. Yeah. And
so
I've been doing like a bit of sales training, and part of the sales training, and it was in another event as well, was these, you know, the prizing. You have to be the prize, and you know, we have to think of ourselves as the prize. And they said, you know, you hear these names: Gucci, Mercedes, Porsche, Chris Mercer artist. And how do you feel? How do you feel if you go, you know, Gucci's, Mercedes, Kate Machin artist? You know, it's a real litmus test, I felt like, when I first did it, because you sort of go, oh, that's a bit, you know. But if you don't think of yourself like that, how are other people going to think of yourself like that? Right.
100%.
We could do it with artists, couldn't we? We could do it with artists that we admire. That's a little exercise for everybody.
That's actually great.
Artists that you admire and stick your name on the end. And you know, I suppose maybe the first time you might go a bit, but you know, work ourselves into it so we feel like, you know, we're accepting our own greatness.
That's amazing. I love that. Genuinely, I want to start doing that all the time.
I'm going to
change my name.
I haven't done that.
My name is now Gucci Mercedes Catherine Machin. Thank you very much. But you know what? It's a bloody good point. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can't take yourself seriously, or if you can't see a future where you, because also here's the thing, you know, we're making artwork for the long term. This isn't disposable art. We're not making stuff that is bought and thrown away. We're making, like, and I often think about it, is I'm making heirlooms. Like, I'm using paints that are designed to last 300 years, you know, and I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that everything's, like, my paintings are stable, because they are designed to pass down generations. I want these to be still around when everyone's stopped talking to each other, because they've all got like brain taps and we're just telepathically floating around or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, we're making heirlooms. So even if you aren't ready to say, hey, right now I'm Gucci, Mercedes, Rolls Royce, or whatever the luxury brands are, that me in this future year, this piece is going to be worth. Because even like thinking about those beginning pieces, right? I've started to think about those beginning pieces as like, what if you were to get hold of Pablo Picasso's very first series of sketches? Like, how valuable would they be?
He was rubbish. I bet he was rubbish cash.
But he was terrible back then. But that's what you're buying, aren't you? There's something like watching a few art history programs and seeing like their early works and saying like, yeah, you know, obviously they were like still forming their skills, and you could see the almost struggle with it, and how endearing that was, because you could recognize that you already could see the end result, right? You knew they became very great, very well respected artists. So those beginning stages, those struggles that you went through were like the most important thing. Like, I held on to my very first painting that I ever did, even though I could tell I was struggling because I had no understanding of how to paint. But I know that that's going to be like, it's one of the most valuable things I've ever had. You know what I mean? So,
but this is
looking at your own early artwork.
Sorry.
I was going to say, looking at your own early artwork like that is priceless.
And acknowledge how far you've come, you know, because this isn't, for me, it's not about art. It's about growth and finding out who you are as a person. You know, it takes us on a journey of lots of different things, you know, and that Gucci, Versace litmus test, check how you're feeling. If you do feel like, oh God, no, that's not fantastic, you've just tapped in to goal there, because you've become aware that you don't feel as much as they are. Or if those aren't brands that you aspire to, find the brands, whatever brands it is that you aspire to, you know, or as you said, people, you know, name the role models and the people that you look up to, and then put your name in there, because they're just people. And if we put somebody on a pedestal and we're down here, then you know, you've got to refigure how you're thinking about that, because we're all just people. They're just people who may have a certain skill level that you don't have yet. You may have a better skill level than them. They may have a better marketing strategy than you have. You know,
they might just be more confident.
They may be more confident. How many times have we seen, go back to artists again, that I think, what the hell? You know, they're really not, I don't think their work is fantastic. It's great. I think some of it is complete rubbish. And they are like really soaring and doing amazingly well. We've all seen that, but their confidence level is taking them to wherever they want to go. So, you know, figure out what it is, you know, because it's not good for any of us to put anybody on a pedestal, because we're all unique and we've all got our own things.
You know what? And that just makes me think of one last thing is this thing called the artist curse, right? Is that you can never see your artwork for the first time.
Yes.
You know, you've been there, you've been sitting with it, you've been working it. You can't walk into a room for the first time and just be like, whoa, you know, and just be presented with every single brushstroke all at once. You know, you never get that, but you get that with everybody else's artwork. And I think that's often why you look at other people's artwork and you're, wow, you know, but they might be thinking, oh, you know, I struggled for 2 months with that piece. You know?
Yeah, that's really good.
So recognizing that. So what are your top 3 things, Chris?
I'm going to go a bit different this week, because something came up on my feed and I thought, oh, that's so good and so great to what we're talking about at the moment. So it's 5 questions.
Oh, okay.
So question number 1 is, what's great about this problem? So it gets us to look at, you know, what's really good about it. Because
when you say that, could you give an example?
What's great about this problem? Say you're not getting any feedback from your social posts. What's great about this problem? Social posts aren't working. Okay, what did I put in that post? It gives you information to go on to start with. That was a picture of this, this, and this. Okay, that didn't seem to go down too well. What time did I post it? You know, you've got stuff that you can look at. What time did I post it? What else could there be? Anyway,
you're just basically learning something new. Right. You've got like you've got the list of what not to do and all of that stuff. Okay, I like that. Yeah,
next time you put it out, you can go, okay, well, I'll put one in situ, see if that gets any better. I'll post it a different time of day. You know, you might like to go, well, you post the same thing 3 times, see if you get the same problem. You know, it's not perfect yet. So you can all come up with things. You know, they're all going to be unique to each person as well. So what's not perfect yet? What am I willing to do to make it the way I want? So that's a big thing, because sometimes we're not willing to do a whole heap. And you got to look at that as well.
I call that the rock star effect. Is like when you're in a crowd and you're looking up at the rock star and you go, I wish that was me on that stage. You know, with all the, you know, but then
what were they willing to do
to get to that stage? So I think there's a difference between wanting to do the work and wanting to be in the place.
And the 4th one is, what am I willing to no longer do in order to make it the way I want? So, you know, I'm not going to sit and watch TV for 3 hours. I'm actually going to sit on and like some posts. So, you know, what are you not willing to do? And maybe not even be big things. It might be little things. And how can I enjoy the process while I do what is necessary to make it the way I want? Because that's all, you know, always important. You've got to enjoy it, otherwise you're not going to keep doing it, you know. Keep doing that. So there are 5 questions, and I will write them in the post when we do the post. So
you know, do you want to recap them just quickly so we've got them?
So what's great about this problem? What's not perfect yet? What am I willing to do to make it the way I want it? What am I willing to no longer do to make it the way I want it? And how can I enjoy the process while I do what is necessary to make it the way I want? Yeah, I think they're quite profound when I read them, and I thought they benefit everybody. I'm taking notes. I'm thinking, well, how can I do that? How can I improve things?
Right. I love that. That's fantastic. So my top 3 things. Number 1, have a plan. I think having a plan, even if your plan is just for today, just for the next hour, even if your plan is to look up resources in order to write a plan. I mean, you don't want to get into analysis paralysis, of course, but having something written down, like, okay, right, what I'm doing isn't working right now. Well, what can I do? Well, I can do step A, step B, step C, and maybe I'll stop doing step D, right? Based on those questions, right? But having some kind of plan helps, right? With those uncertainty, with that, because you know where you're going. Now, bear in mind, I'm saying that like it's easy to create a plan, but look, as you just said, sometimes, Chris, if you can't think of exactly what to do, you can at least work out what not to do often, you know, so you can always start there. Number 2, I think this is something that was good when I was suffering, because I get very intense anxiety. And during those moments, I have to focus on what you can be certain about. Now, sometimes it's not even related to the work, but, you know, you can be certain about, well, like I can be certain that I've got food in the house, or If not, I can be certain that, you know, I can get some sleep, or I can be certain, if not, you know, I can be certain that if I need to go outside for a walk, I can go outside for a walk. I can be certain that I know that I'm still going to be in this house next week. Now, bear in mind, there are times in your lives when all of these are going to be like one or the other, you know, are going to be not certain, but there'll be things that you are certain about. So focusing on what you can be certain about is a good way to manage anxiety. Like, what do I know that is around me that's stable and secure? Because my biggest level of anxiety, I mean, I've had many, and often, almost always, before I launch a project, I'm always like, yeah, this is gonna work, you know. But you have to keep that. That's the thing. Like, I'm feeling internally like that, but I have to keep on turning up, and I have to keep on pushing. I have to keep presenting because it's my business and it's my life. So I can't, you know, I don't want to stop in those moments. So I focus on what I can do rather than what I can't do. And I think that's one of the really important things. And I think when I was traveling the world, when I was stuck outside of Australia for 8 months, and I didn't know what country I was going to be in. So I didn't know where I was going to live, what time zone I was going to be in, or whether I could even get in, or whether I would be breaching my visa, or all of those things. I didn't know what paperwork to do. And all of that, like literally day to day, was incredibly filled with anxiety. But we made it through by just focusing on what can you do rather than what you can't. Because in those extreme moments, that was 8 months, and it was intense, of like not knowing where I was going to be. Like, you know, it was a big challenge. Okay, so the last one, I think maybe I'll put a bonus one in there as well. But the third one is to write it down and reframe it. Every time when I get into a cloud of thoughts that's negative, or that is where I'm feeling overwhelmed, or where I am experiencing very high emotions or very high uncertainty, or inner dialogue is not the best it could be. What I'm doing is I basically get a big piece of paper, A3 or whatever, tabloid piece of paper, and I write in the middle, you know, what the heck is bothering me? Or like, you know, might add some more expletives in there, but I'll go around and I'll write everything, big and small. You know, it'll be like, you know, I don't have time for this, or, you know, what happens if this fails, or what about my tax? I've forgotten about my tax, or what about, you know, all of these things. Any random little bit, I'll just pour it out onto the page, fill the damn thing up with every little doubt, insecurity, anything, right? Every little intrusive thought will be written on that page. And then I go around and I flip the script. So obviously I'll go in and I will write either a solution to it, because most of them have good solutions, even if the solution is you can't deal with this right now, but you're going to make a calendar appointment to visit it on this date, right? Whatever it is. So you write solutions to every single thing. Now, some things in life you can't solve. You either have to learn to accept it, you have to learn to change it, or you have to learn to walk away, because those are the only three options. So if it's something that you can't change, you have to learn to either accept it or walk away. There are lots of things in life that are a bit like that. And sometimes those things could be, you know, trying to think of like a good example of that. But, you know, for instance, you know, there could be challenging living situations, you know, I've been in the past where I couldn't change the situation. So I could either just learn to deal with it or change where I was, which, you know, was a big move, you know. So there's lots of things like that. But the point is that by the time, and the thing is, your brain is wonderful. Everyone's brain, when you start to write down all these challenges, your brain automatically, it's already in like problem solving mode. And just having that whole page filled with solutions, what a difference it makes.
It's makes a huge difference, isn't it? I suppose just to stop you going into overwhelm, because you can, it's out of the head and onto the page.
Right. And even if, you know, and even on that earlier thing of like writing down, like knowing what you can be certain about, writing that down And that is a good place to, that's a basis. What can you do if you're not focusing on what can't you do? Do that.
Yeah.
And I think last bonus is to stop comparison. But I would say stop comparison in a negative way. Like, I feel like it's one thing to look for ideas on what you can do. It's a different thing if you're looking at that and saying, I'll never be that, or I can't be that, or I'm no good because this person's there. Because the truth is everyone's been their journey. You know, some people have been very, very blessed and fortunate and are very privileged in their journey. And we all are privileged in our own different ways. And some people are less privileged or less fortunate, but regardless, a journey still has had to happen. And there's no journey without obstacle, whatever that obstacle might be. You just often don't get to see it, recognizing everyone's got their own obstacles and their own things going on. And, you know, social media isn't always what you know, it's not a face value kind of thing. There's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. Like, you know, even just us talking about the amount of business stuff that we do behind the scenes, most artists won't know that that's all going on, but that's going on basically for pretty much every business. So stop negative comparison. Any final thoughts, Chris?
There is actually, there's a couple of things that we have done over the time. Remember, like, you write on the mirror. So you've got your mirror in the bathroom, and get your lipstick out and you can write, you know, I am enough. I love myself. Whatever you need to hear. That's, you know, every morning you can get up and see all these beautiful words. They just, you know, get into you. We let all the bad stuff get into us extremely easily. There's all this good stuff we need to hear. Get your lipstick out, write on your mirror all the lovely things that you need to hear. And I tell you what, there's magic in this process, because I've been involved doing all this stuff for many, many years. My daughter has been to a few things, but I went into her apartment. She's got sticky notes all over her walls, you know, saying all beautiful things about herself. She used to do it at home, and her bedroom mirror was all that. It's not something that I started and said, you know, this is a good idea to do. She's seen me doing it. So if you've got children, you know,
it's a good example to set.
It's a fantastic example to, you know, start teaching them self-love, self-worth as well. And
you don't need to wait for someone else to say it to you. You say it to you. And I think that's the thing. We always wait for a parent or a loved one or a boss or anyone to say it to us, forgetting that we are actually totally capable of saying those things to ourselves. And they still mean just as much. In fact, they mean more when it's coming from yourself. Yeah,
because some people find it extremely hard to say these things. So it does mean so much coming from yourself. And 100%. Another great thing that I did was a strength test, a Gallup strength test. And that was really great, because all of this that we've been talking about today is finding out more about yourself.
Right.
So a Gallup strength test for me, like, I found out, I can't remember what order, it was strategic, a learner, achiever, and input were my top 4. And once you find, like, I think you can do the Gallup strength test and get your top 5 or so free online. And it's fantastic, because there's ups and downsides to being these things. So as you go, I think, oh, mine sounded really good, you know. But strategic, I do need a strategy. I love a good strategy, then I'm off and running. But if I don't have a good strategy, then the wheels can fall off. But before I knew that, I didn't understand. A learner's the same. A learner's fantastic having a learner, but I can keep on wanting to learn, and I can keep reading books and the next book and the next book. So there's a downside. There's an ups and a downside to all of these things. Achiever, I found the most interesting, because I need to feel like I've achieved something every day. So it was very easy for me not to feel like I've achieved. It's interesting, isn't it? Even though you do things every day. If I'd only half done it or 3/4 done it, it wasn't achieved. It wasn't complete. So it's like for maybe an achiever to have a smaller list that can be ticked, chunked down more. So it's gone, oh, yes, I did do that because I need my little endorphins with the tick. The achiever. Yeah, it's very interesting.
That's fascinating. There's
the input one, that was a real bit of a killer because I need to collect all sorts of input before I move forward. So it's great because I like to collect information, but it's the same as the learner. How much do I actually need before I get my bum off the ground and actually keep
right?
So I found that like really interesting to monitor myself, to go, okay, am I being an over inputter here? Have I actually got enough information to do it?
Right.
So it's like this, you know, doing whatever we need to do to promote ourselves as an artist. Stop collecting the information for me and get out and do it. You know, so doing a strength test like that was, I think it was the Gallup one I did many years ago, was I found really beneficial because I know myself a little bit more through doing that.
I love that. I think that knowing yourself is really important. And even doing things like the 5 love languages, or there's another one that's similar to Gallup that's like the DISC series.
Yes, the DISC.
But you know, there's like a lot of them, but I think like, and for me, and I mean, I spoke about it earlier and I'm talking about it a lot, but like learning that I was ADHD changed the game for me. Because I always just thought I'm a terrible, broken person. I can't get my shit together, you know, and I just realized it's just my brain works a little differently. But by knowing you can put things in place. Now, it doesn't change the scenario, but what it does is it allows you to look at whatever's going on and being like, okay, well, this wasn't working for me, but here's a bunch of stuff I can do. Because here's the thing, there's a lot of other people that have gone through similar things. Even when it's like you're talking about the Gallup strength test, there's like lots of things that, you know, will help, you know, if you are a learner or if you are, and, you know, searching for input all the time, here's things you can do to help you make that, you know, that leap, I suppose.
I think it's just awareness even, you know, you're aware that you go, okay, I'm obviously, you know, there's a positive side and a negative side to it. I'm veering down this one too much that I need to, you know.
Need to up it.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's great. Just all information, all getting to know ourselves.
I love that. Well, that is fantastic. So for everyone out there, what is the thing that you are uncertain about? Or what are the things that you find challenging? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. As always, our social links are down in the description. Make sure you give us a follow so you can catch future episodes. The next episode, we are going to be talking about how to use influencer marketing. I will see you all next time and I will chat to you later. Bye.
See you then.